Hello and welcome to this talk on midpoints. Now, first of all, we need to look at what the word midpoint means. And it actually comes from the name. It's the middle point on a line. But let's take it back a second and look at what the middle number of 2 and 8 would be. Now, there's a couple of different strategies you could use. You could write all the numbers out between 2 and 8. And then counting from either side, so knocking off from either side, so I'm left with 5, and so 5 would be my middle number. However, if I had the numbers 2 and 101, that would take an awful long time. So we need to look at a more effective strategy. Now, for this, I'm going to recommend that you add the numbers together. So 2 plus 8 would give me 10. And then I'll do 10 divided by 2, which can be 5, which you notice will give me the same answer as I found before. Now, the reason why this works is that we're finding the average, the mean of the two numbers. Okay, so you add the two numbers together and divide by 2 because there are two numbers, which gives you the average, and so the middle point, which is 5. Now, if we now look at the midpoint on a line, again, there's a couple of different strategies you could use. Now, first of all, you could look at the line and use a ruler and measure the line and find halfway down it. Now, this is a strategy, however, it's not necessarily the most effective strategy because you can be inaccurate when you come to measure the line, and when you actually get a decimal or a fraction halfway through between two numbers, it can be quite hard to read and be precise about your measurement. So if I was measuring, I'd find that my midpoint is on here, the coordinate 3.5, 2.5. But let's do it with numbers, okay, and do it mathematically, calculating using an average method. So I find the coordinates of the points either end of the line, so I've got 1, 4, and the other end of the line would be 6, 1. Okay, so to find the average of my x values, so the coordinate is made up of an x value and a y value. So the average of my x values, I'd add my x values together, which are 1 plus 6. If I have a look, so those are my x values, and the blue highlighted ones are my y values. So x values, 1 plus 6 gives me 7, and then find halfway, I divide by 2, which gives me 3.5. Okay, so I found halfway between my x values here. Find the average of my y values. I'm going to add 4 plus 1, which I've highlighted in blue, which gives me 5. And then, again, find halfway, I divide by 2, which gives me 2.5. So I've got coordinate 3.5, 2.5. And you'll notice it matches my graph where I measured the line. Okay, but we're not always going to be given the line. So if I was just given the coordinates, so I've got the coordinates 2, 9 and -6, 21. So again, I identify my x values and my y values in the coordinates. Okay, I'm going to highlight my x values in yellow and my y values in blue, just to make it easier to identify them. Okay, and then I'm going to go through it and identify the average of my x values. So my x values are 2, plus negative 6. Well, 2 plus negative 6, I'm going to subtract 6, so 2 minus 6 is minus 4. If you find dealing with negative numbers or directing numbers difficult, draw out a number line to help you. Okay, then I'm going to do minus 4 divided by 2 because I'm halving it, I'm finding that midpoint. So half of 4 is 2, so half of negative 4 would be negative 2. So then I need to find the midpoint of my y values. Okay, the middle of my y values. So I've got 9 plus 21, which gives me 30. And then I find halfway, so 30 divided by 2 gives me 15. So my midpoint of these two coordinates would be minus 2, 15. And that would be my answer. Thank you for listening to this talk.